Asian Americans are the fastest growing ethnic group in Texas, across the nation, and right here in Austin. But a recent report by the nonpartisan group Asian Texans for Justice shows 80% of Asian American Pacific Islanders, or AAPIs, say their interests are not represented in government. Ashley Cheng is the founding president of Asian Texans for Justice. And Ashley, welcome to KVUE Midday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to get your reaction to that number. Why is it so high? 80% of AAPIs.
80%, that's right. And I think a lot of it is that historically we just haven't seen a lot of representation at any level of government of folks who look like us, right? And there was also a finding from the report was that a majority of Asian Texans find that they don't feel represented in terms of, having folks in elected office who look like them. I think we're seeing that change slowly. We're seeing more and more candidates come out who identify as Asian American Pacific Islander. But I think a lot of it also is that none of the political parties traditionally have really spent a lot of time, resources to reach out to the Asian American community.
Especially with the report saying that 64% of APIs are highly motivated to vote next month.
64%, that's the majority of Asian Texans out there. We need to make sure that with an election around the corner, early voting starting October 24th, that these campaigns and candidates are really reaching out and listening to the community first.
That's right. What did the survey say are some of the more important issues to AAPIs?
Yeah, so the top issues, the biggest priorities are the economy, right, the cost of living, inflation, also education and voting rights. All of those had I think over a 90% of the Asian Texans, Pacific Islanders who were surveyed, said that was a high priority issue for them this election.
This report was released by your group last month. What were some of the other key findings?
So the Asian Texans for Justice, yes, we've just released this report. We found a lot that also that language access was important, to have more resources in government. Also, the majority of Asian Texans believe in issues such as abortion rights and gun reform.
Okay, and so now that the deadline for registration is over, the next big push, I would assume, is early voting. How are y'all doing that? What do you need people to know?
Well, you can go to asiantexansforjustice.org to find all of your voting resources. Asian Texans for Justice just put out voting guides in the DFW area, Central Texas, so including Austin, as well as Houston area. You can also find on that website important information like resources, all the information you need, links to not only our voting guide, but also organizations like League of Women Voters, which have translated guides also in many Asian languages. And I also want to mention that voter suppression is a huge issue in this state. I experienced it personally when I took my mom to vote for her very first time.
What happened?
We got to the polls. She had been a citizen at that point for 40 years. We showed up at her local grocery store. I walked her hand in hand into the polls, and when we got there, I also have to say that I personally became a volunteer deputy registrar that year so that I could register my mom herself to vote and make sure that it was all done properly. And that she wasn't intimidated by the process. And so when we get there, the election workers looked up and told her that they said, "We don't see you." And she wasn't on the voter rolls, which I think for the Asian American community specifically, those words, "I don't see you," are deeply...
It's painful.
It's painful.
It is painful. So what did you have to do to correct that situation in case people are watching and that happens to them?
Yeah, so folks, if you're in the Asian community, especially if English isn't your first language, you can call the Election Protection Line, which is managed in partnership with organizations like Texas Civil Rights Project, AAPI Vote, and the number for that is 888-OUR-VOTE. And the general line is also 866-OUR-VOTE. Wait, I messed that up. 888-APIA-VOTE is for Asian languages.
Just go to Asian Texans for Justice. If you have any other questions, Ashley Cheng, founding president of that group, thank you so much for your time and for that valuable information.
Thank you so much.
Yes, have a good morning.